is one of the most complex things that most of us do in our daily lives. Dale here has been driving for 30 years. We're tearing around this track at about 150 kilometres per hour, and he's not only braking, accelerating and turning, but looking several hundred metres ahead on the track. Most teenagers don't look past the front of the bonnet. Driving is an amazingly complex task. It takes years of practice to master. Yet we expect teenagers to be totally competent the moment they get their licence. Tonight, I'll show you why this idea is so wrong, plus give you some common sense tips that will help keep your teen driver alive. Thank you for the completely spontaneous demonstration of affection. It's quite humbling, really. It's quite a complicated thing, driving. The thing about teenagers, though, is when it comes time to start to learn driving, they start giving you this sort of spiel, this line. Just like when they want a mobile phone, it's all about why it's good for you for them to have a mobile phone, because they'll be safer and you can keep in contact with them, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Supervising them while driving is not child abuse, and they will act as if it is. They will say to you that your supervision of them in their driving is abusive. They will also say that it clearly demonstrates you don't trust them, and therefore you don't love them, therefore you never wanted them in the first place. We also think that it's all about boy and girl races, that they're the problem. And you watch telly and you see them driving up and down the road in their silly little cars and stuff, and you watch their cars being crushed and you feel quite good inside. But it's not. It's just normal, everyday kids out there driving is the thing. Stats say new drivers equal fatal crashes. Young drivers between the ages of 15 and 24 are approximately 16% of the licence-holding population, but are involved in over a third of all fatal car crashes each year. The most at-risk subset of this group are young drivers aged 15 to 19 who are in the first 12 months of driving solo. A restricted driver is 4 times more likely to have an accident than a learner driver. So learner driver with you sitting there, actually quite a low rate of crashes, even though a lot of learner driving is you going, phone, phone. And then you go, and they go, what? So despite the yelling and the cursing and the raised heartbeat and the exaggerated pulse and stuff, learner drivers are actually pretty safe, but their risk increases 4 times when they're on a restricted licence. If a young driver is involved in a car accident, they're at fault 80% of the time. And sometimes people think, oh, you're just bagging young people, you know, oh, can't you say anything good about them? Not a great deal in cars. Not really. I mean, you could say 20% of the time they're not to blame for car accidents. But that's still not great. What all of that boils down to, when you combine all of that stuff, is that they're most at risk in cars in the first 6 to 12 months after they start driving alone, after they get their restricted licence. Your teenager may be a model driver when you're around, but the moment they're alone, or worse, with their mates, the teen fairy takes control.
Hello, I'm a teen driver. I've mastered the basics of driving. And as for the road code, done! You throw in factors like fatigue, drugs, alcohol, or driving with peers, I just don't have the experience to deal with these situations when I finally get a little alone time behind the wheel. I can make this.
The fact is, teenagers' brains are still developing. Their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that helps us make rational decisions, isn't fully functioning. That means their orientation to the risks and dangers associated with driving is very different to adults. So if teenagers' brains are still developing, how does this affect them as drivers compared to, say, an adult who in theory has a fully operational brain? We asked 3 families to partake in a series of challenges that we designed to compare teen drivers with their parents. Meet Ollie and his mum Glenda, Lizzie and her dad Charlie, Julianne and Anya. So welcome to Surviving Teen Driving. We're going to be doing some quite interesting things, but first off, what we're going to do is test your calibration skills. So I'm going to ask you to tell me how far you would need to drop a car, how many stories, to replicate a collision at 50 kilometres per hour. The answer is 4 stories high.
So imagine being in that car.
Oh my
exactly.
goodness.
That would be scary.
Oh, look at it.
Look at the damage, and that's just at 50 k's, normal driving around town speed. Imagine what it would be like on the motorway at 100 k's. You don't have to, because here it is. A crash into a stationary object at 100 k's is the same as dropping your car nose first onto the ground from 12 stories in the air.
It's terrible.
That was a crash.